What do you suppose Republicans will talk about at their convention this week? I'm Charlie Sykes. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning. Welcome to Sunday Insight. We're still in our temporary studio. Now, in the week that was, another spectacular fall from grace as Lance Armstrong is stripped of his titles after he drops his fight against doping charges. Republicans prepare for their convention in Tampa with cheeseheads Paul Ryan, Scott Walker, and Reince Priebus in the spotlight. The First Lady visits Milwaukee. New polls show that with the pick of Paul Ryan, Wisconsin is now officially a toss-up state. And again, speaking of Ryan, his selection as VP meant the election would be about big things, right? That probably explains why pictures of his gun show have gone viral. There's this, and this, and this. The Packers finally win a preseason game. A former Milwaukee County supervisor is acquitted on bribery charges. The federal government will run its fourth straight trillion-dollar deficit. And Sydney High doesn't wait to be torn down. It's the site of a spectacular three-alarm fire. But we start this morning with Wisconsin politics, of course. New polls show that Wisconsin is a toss-up in the presidential race, but a slew of new polls suggest that Tommy Thompson has jumped out to an early lead against his Democratic challenger, Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin. A poll by the Marquette University Law School found the former governor leading the Madison area Congresswoman 50 to 41%. A poll by the Democratic firm Public Policy Polling gave Thompson a 49 to 44% lead. A Rasmussen poll found that Thompson had an 11-point lead over Baldwin, 54% to 43%. The Democrats are vowing to make an issue of Thompson's refusal to release his income tax returns. Tommy says he's complying with financial disclosure law and says flatly it's none of your business. Now, joining me on our panel this morning, the MacIver Institute's Brian Fraley, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, and political consultant Mary Jo Boss. Okay, in our interesting little studio here.
I love what you've done with this.
Yes, we're thinking of just turning into the official Wayne's World show, but we thought, no. Hey, by the way, when we get the real studio back, it's going to look like the Starship Enterprise. Okay, should Tommy Thompson release his income tax returns? Why not?
No, I don't care about Tommy's taxes. I care about my taxes. That's why I'm voting for Tommy Thompson.
Yeah. Okay, but isn't there a level of transparency and disclosure that we should expect
yes,
from politicians?
absolutely,
Okay.
Absolutely. And he has
filed. What has he got to hide?
He has filed all his required disclosure forms with the senatorial committee and with the FEC. That's all I care about. He's complying with the law.
Okay. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I don't think he should be forced to, but I think he better actually disclose them because otherwise it's going to become a campaign issue.
He's not, and it is.
Yep. Tammy Baldwin's commercials, I could write them right now.
Right.
Why does he not want to disclose his tax returns? And that's going to become an issue, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow.
Okay, well, the bigger question, though, is, does the public care? Do voters actually care? I understand that the media and the talking heads like us and the politicians care about it. Does the average person sitting at the George Webbs, do they give a rip whether or not Tommy Thompson releases his tax returns?
Well, naturally, if you look at some of the polls, they care about Mitt Romney's tax, and they want to see his for the last 10 years. So,
do they? Really?
Yeah, because they want to make sure that he paid some taxes.
Okay, Mary Jo Boss.
You know, the FEC looked at this. They said, what do we need to know to make a good decision? That's what they got to do. That's what Tommy did. He gave them the information. I think the most important thing is that he has to be absolutely decisive. He has to stick to his no means no and take it off the table.
Okay. See, I think over the years, there's always been a number of issues like, say, campaign finance reform that the people in politics and the media get all worked up about. And then you actually go out into the real world and you find out that people go, we don't really care that much about it. In this particular case, I do think that we ought to know something about the finances of candidates for public office. But the income tax return, think about it. Talk about the ultimate bait and switch, where the federal government says, we're going to make you disclose all sorts of private personal data. But trust us, it's secret and it's confidential. And then people go, well, all right, I would not give this information to anybody else. This is the most intimate information about my finances I could give. And they do, and then we have the bait and switch where suddenly it's like, okay, now you need to make that information public. I mean, when did we get to the point where your information on your personal income tax, which we were promised when the laws were passed, there's all this confidentiality, protections around it. When did we get to the point where our politicians now have to disclose that?
It started as soon as political campaigns had to start searching for issues versus the real issues that should be on the table.
Well.
And so now everything is open game now. I mean, everybody knows that. So the issue becomes not what your tax returns say, but whether or not you will disclose what they say. You know, Tommy Thompson probably made a couple of $1 million last year, probably made a couple of $1 million for the last 10 consecutive years. I don't know what people are looking, but it's going to become an issue.
It's going to become an issue. I just don't think it's going to have any traction. Now, you're seeing these polls here. Now, is this just a post-primary bump, Brian Fraley?
We know.
How do we know?
We know Tommy Thompson.
Yeah.
We know that he's a doer. We know that he can represent the state, that he can represent and reach out to the independent voters and represent them as well. He is going to beat Tammy Baldwin.
Well, you're for Thompson. I just want to know politically,
but
though.
the only thing Baldwin has is this side issue. I mean, the economy's on fire. 41 straight months of unemployment over 8%, okay? And she wants to focus on the politics of envy to try to get his tax returns out there to show that he's actually made some money in the last few years because she's got nothing else. She can't run on her liberal track.
I guess I was slightly surprised by how you figured that there's going to be a bump from the primary. But the fact is that Tammy Baldwin has been on the air. She's run some very effective ads. There have not been a lot of negative attacks on her. She's got a target-rich environment with her voting record. So you haven't had that. And yet you have Tommy Thompson arguably up by double digits. So I'll ask you that question. Is this a temporary bump?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Of course Tommy's ahead. He's been on the statewide stage for 20 years. She's been running statewide for 6 months. Everyone knows Tommy. They know whether they like him. If this is what they've got against him, they're going to lose.
I think older folks know Tommy. I mean, he hasn't been in public office for 12 years, actually. You know, but anyone over 40 knows him. But that name still resonates throughout Wisconsin politics.
It does. And now you've been arguing that Wisconsin was not in play. Every poll indicates that Wisconsin is officially in play now with the Paul Ryan. So you got a very strong candidate for United States Senate. You have Paul Ryan on the vice presidential ticket. Are you still willing to say that Wisconsin's not a toss-up state?
Nope, it's not a toss-up state. Barack Obama's going to win Wisconsin by 6 percentage points.
Okay, so can Obama win and Thompson also win?
Now that's an interesting question there.
The answer, of course, is yes. We have split our tickets, but you are wrong. The state is a toss-up state. Still ahead on Sunday Insight, there's still a chance that you'll have to show an ID at the polls in November. And coming up next, the comment, the reaction, the apology.
If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
Rape is rape.
Well, first of all, let me say that legitimate should not be in the context of rape at all.
Rape is rape, period. End of story. So that forcible rape language meant nothing to you at the time?
Rape is rape, and there's no splitting hairs over rape.
His comments with regards to rape are outrageous, they're offensive, they're inappropriate, and they're wrong.
Rape is an evil act. I used the wrong words in the wrong way, and for that I apologize.
It was the gaffe that upended a Senate race in Missouri. The Republican candidate for Senate there, Todd Akin, had this to say about abortion in the cases of rape.
It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down. But let's assume that maybe that didn't work or something. You know, I think there should be some punishment, but the punishment ought to be in the rapist and not attacking the child.
Well, that comment sent off a predictable firestorm, with Republicans across the country urging Akin to drop out of the race. Here in Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker, Senator Ron Johnson, and Tommy Thompson all called on Akin to hit the road, while both Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan also said that Akin should drop out. Well, that hasn't stopped Democrats from trying to score points off the comment. Democrats quickly moved to load up their convention schedule with pro-abortion speakers, hoping to turn that gaffe into a wedge issue with undecided women voters. Will that work? Mary Jo Boss.
No, it won't. And I'm very pleased that the Republicans from top to bottom have said rape is rape, it's reprehensible, it has nothing to do with the GOP. We want him out. His comments are, it wasn't just a word that was wrong, it was the underlying thinking. And I think everyone has been so clear and so quick, it's just not going to stick.
Okay, except that he's not getting out of the race, so you've taken a almost certain GOP pickup and turned it into almost a certain GOP loss.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you've also seen the Republican Party is willing to accept that. They still want him out knowing it's going to cost him.
Except the Democrats are going to try to hang Aiken around every single Republican, and you can hear that in speaker after speaker after speaker.
Absolutely. And what they're going to really focus on is, what does the Republican Party platform say? Is it close enough to this guy that you can say it's similar thinking? I mean, it's obvious that he was stupid. You know, he's making these statements about a woman who can somehow control whether or not she wants to be pregnant. That's beyond stupidity, quite honest. But this is going to hang.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently Aiken thought that women had some sort of eject button. I don't know. Yeah, he's a moron. He's an idiot. He should drop out. He's going to cost the Republicans that seat if he doesn't get out. But again, the economy's on fire. There's 8% unemployment for over 3 years, and we're talking about this garbage. And I understand that the Democrats' tactics all across the country are going to be try to tie Romney, Ryan, Tommy, whoever, to this guy, but it's not going to work because the American people are focused on the problems and the solutions that are necessary to get this economy turning around. The Democrats have no solutions on this. They're grasping at anything.
There's a reason why the majority of women support Barack Obama. And I'm telling you, the question is not whether, to what extent his statements were stupid. The question is, what does the Republican platform say about abortion?
Okay, and we're going to be hearing that a lot. And obviously the Democrats have moved very, very forcefully to exploit it. But it is, and this is not directed at you because I'm quoting from the Bill Clinton campaign, this is about the economy stupid. And I think that there's going to be a certain cognitive dissonance when people tune into the Democratic convention and instead of hearing about jobs, instead of hearing about the 8% unemployment, the debt, the deficit, the slow economic growth, the way that wages have gone down, they're going to be hearing about contraception and abortion, which is, let's be honest about it. Yeah, those are wedge issues, but if the president and the Democrats wanted to run on the economy, if they wanted to run on defense of Obamacare, they would be talking about that, not abortion. Here's the other thing, and again, like with the Medicare issue, be careful what you wish for. Because if you want to elevate this, then let's talk about what President Obama believes on abortion. President Obama has supported partial birth abortion. President Obama opposed the Infant Born Alive Act. President Obama has made it clear that he supports a woman's right to abort, late into third trimester abortions. Does he really think that those are going to be effective issues as well? Does he really want to talk about that?
Well, he's going to stick to his guns in this particular issue. There is I'll state again, there's a reason why, his positions on abortion or a woman's right.
Who is the extremist on abortion? Who is the extremist on abortion?
Well, if you factor in both of them are extreme, if you really want to look at it that way.
I think it's safe to say that the Republicans are perhaps to the right of the nation when it comes to abortion. I don't deny that. But Barack Obama and the Democrats, to say that they are, Barack Obama is to the left of his own party on this particular issue. And again, you got to be careful what you wish for. Now, coming up on Sunday Insight, will you or won't you have to show an ID in the November election? And as we go to break, some welcome civility in this election season. First Lady Michelle Obama met privately with the families of the victims of the Sikh temple shooting. Wisconsin First Lady Tonette Walker greeted Mrs. Obama here in Milwaukee, and later Mrs. Walker put out a statement reading, "As always, she was gracious and kind. Her willingness to reach out to those in the Sikh community to help them heal will not only help those affected, but also help eliminate the ignorance that led up to the horrific event in Oak Creek. I appreciate her presence in Wisconsin." So, are we going to get voter IDs or not this year? Now, for months, it looked like November's election would come and go without a requirement that voters show an ID. Two Dane County judges had put the law on hold, and the Supreme Court has refused to take up the legal challenge. But last week, Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen petitioned the High Court to take up the case, arguing that it is now ripe for a decision. Last time around, the justices took a powder. Michael Holt, is there any reason to think that the answer this time will be different?
No, because even if they took up this matter, and they ruled in October, it would be total chaos at the polls if you had voter ID. There's not enough time to really truly implement it. And again, we don't need. Well, some people would need weeks and weeks and weeks to get the necessary ID. So then they can say that they were denied an actual vote. And plus, we don't need this voter ID law.
Okay, Mary Jo Boss, any chance the answer will be different this time around?
Absolutely. I think you've had the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on it. We have a number of states, Ohio, I believe it was Pennsylvania. Theirs have been ruled constitutional. There's a reason to believe it will be successful, and I think the Supreme Court, we have to remember, they don't have to rule on this issue. They only have to lift the injunction, and I think that's very possible.
Okay, you agree?
Yeah, I think lifting the injunction is possible. Look, we know that eventually, nationwide, there's going to be voter ID. We know that because people want valid elections. They want people who have the right to vote and vote only once. It's a matter of time.
A survey in the Washington Post poll showed that more than 70% of voters still favor the voter ID.
That's right.
I think the answer might be different because, in fact, you have more of a court record. You've had more evidence. The case has been fully briefed. Okay, I'm going to flip to another story. Last Friday, to a surprise for some people, former Milwaukee County Supervisor Johnny Thomas was acquitted, found not guilty in the bribery case. Your thoughts on that? What happened?
It was out. A lot of people as testimony started coming up, started saying this was a sting operation, and he was actually set up, and for whatever reason, the county did not have a good case. Even you said on Friday on your talk show that you would not be surprised if he was acquitted. There was not enough evidence. He comes out looking like the victim.
Well, okay, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on television, but whatever the definition of entrapment was, what the Milwaukee County DA's office did certainly came right up to that line. And I'm not a fan of Johnny Thomas, but what I said before the verdict was, do not be surprised if he beats this rap. Were you surprised?
I was very surprised. A week ago, I would never have thought this happened, but as more and more information comes out, I'm appalled.
Appalled by what? By the verdict?
No, not by the verdict, but by the actions of the DA's office. It seems very, again, I wasn't there, I don't have all the information. It seems very close to entrapment to me.
Okay. 90 minutes is all it took. They even forego the free lunch on Friday at noon to come out with the verdict. It was clear cut.
I mean, I think that at this point, I think that this whole prosecution and the way they went about it raises some very significant questions about the judgment of the DA's office, about their prosecution.
And the head of Aveley's administration.
It also raises question about the way that Patrick Farley, who is the top administration official in county government, went about this undercover sting that certainly looked to the jury like it might have been a setup. And I think the key moment for me was when I read that okay, so he hands him this envelope on December 6th, and Johnny Thomas goes home and says, and opens it up and goes, holy, look at this, there's money in here, gets back in his car, drives back to the courthouse, goes to Farley's office and said, do you know that there was cash in there? And Farley, who's a former assistant DA, apparently, allegedly, then tells Johnny Thomas, it's okay, this gives you more flexibility. And Johnny Thomas says, well, I trusted you, I believed you, you're a former DA, you're a big-time political guy. And I'm guessing that the jury at that point said, okay, so now you're busting him for bribery when we know that this guy did it in this way, so...
Well, and as Johnny Thomas said, as attorneys asserted at trial, if he couldn't trust Farley, the former prosecutor, the head of county government, on what is and could be done and is acceptable, who could he trust? He said, I asked the one guy I would trust.
Expand on that question. Can any supervisor, can any public official trust Farley? Will you go out to lunch with him?
I mean, how do people work with him now?
It is an interesting question because, as the paper reported on Friday, Farley acknowledged during his testimony that he had lied repeatedly to Supervisor Thomas during the course of this undercover investigation. Now, I understand that sometimes, these undercover investigations are going to require some questionable activity, but you are dealing with the top director of administration in the Aveley administration, the Milwaukee County DA's office. And I hope there's a lot of people who have a lot of questions to answer about this. Next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. And Brian Fraley, you are first.
Winners this week are the thousands who have gone to streetcarnameddisaster.com to express your disapproval of Mayor Barrett's trolley folly. Milwaukee leaders don't want to hear the public's opinion on this matter, but that's not stopping you from expressing it at www.streetcarnameddisaster.com. The losers are the kids over at the Democratic Party of Wisconsin who actually questioned Paul Ryan's Packer fandom because he waved a Pittsburgh Steelers towel at a campaign rally here. Okay, we get it. The parents are gone, the babysitter's on her iPhone out back, but at some point, don't even you guys get tired of jumping up and down on the furniture and binging on sprinkles? Grow up.
Michael Holt.
Well, on one hand, as we were just talking about, Johnny Thomas is a big winner. He's exonerated from these bribery charges. But on the other hand, he's probably the big loser. I mean, he was on pace to become a big-time Democratic operative in Milwaukee. Everyone assumed he was going to win the position as city comptroller. Can he ever now regain his reputation? Who's going to say, I'm sorry? Can he sue? or we just have to suffer in silence now?
Mary Jo Boss.
My winner, Wisconsin. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, it will be great to have Wisconsin in the nation's spotlight as our homegrown rock stars Scott Walker, Paul Ryan, Reince Priebus, and Cardinal Timothy Dolan take the stage at the Republican National Convention in Tampa. My loser, the Julian Assange case. International arm twisting is muddying the waters, while human rights activists seem to be turning a blind eye to allegations of rape because Assange is a social hero. He must be held accountable, but he must be assured of due process.
Well, my loser, the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office, which failed to get a conviction in the Johnny Thomas case last week. The DA said the case was a slam dunk, and apparently the jury thought so too, throwing it out after less than 90 minutes of deliberation. Winner, Paul Ryan. This is his week to shine, and the stage could hardly be bigger. It's a big week for Cheesehead. Thanks for joining us. And join me for my radio show on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great week.